We are recording, so everybody talk nicely about me. Don't say anything bad. Damn, Kay. I know you had some things.
So many things.
So many.
So what did everyone have for breakfast?
Yeah.
Did anybody not have breakfast?
I had a leftover veggie burger from Veggie Grill.
Oh, okay. Not pizza this morning?
Not pizza this morning.
Okay.
Okay.
I had an oatmeal cookie.
Ooh,
Not,
There we go.
there's some oatmeal in that.
yeah,
Yes.
right?
Andrea?
Oh, oatmeal.
Oatmeal too.
We have the same thing. Hugh and I do this, and we have the same food every time.
All right. Day in, day out.
We are
It's
boring.
now 12:01.
We are
FYI.
boring. All right. I'm going to start. Everyone ready?
Ready.
Crack your knuckles.
I need my back scratcher like you.
Yeah, get your back scratcher. All right. Hi, everybody. Hello again. Welcome back to Navigating the Unknown. I'm Andrea Stern of SternRep and AskSternRep. In these webinars, we have covered a lot of the topics that are really helping us understand what's happening in our industry right now. This one, I feel, is slightly different because estimates are a constant, mysterious challenge that always, you know, they have a certain secrecy about them. So today, we are going to tackle that. We brought in two pros to help us get a sense of how to best estimate a job. APA, thank you for APA LA, thank you for making this happen, big time. So this week we have and every week, our co-host, LA photographer and APA LA board member, Hugh Kretschmer. Hi, Hugh.
Hey.
And guests, art content producer, Kay Goutrod. Do I say Goutrod right?
Gottrod. Long A's. It's all right.
Oh.
No one gets it right.
And producer Michael Klein of Circadian Pictures joining us. Hi, guys.
Hello. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely.
I'm going to turn to Hugh first. Hugh, say something nice.
Hi, Andrea. It's great, as always, to be partnering with you on these webinars. We're huge fans of AskSternReps as we build a community within our industry. I've been a board member for about 3 years, and I'm thrilled to be a part of these webinars because I do feel like we are providing a lot of great information for our viewers, especially now. And I want to thank our esteemed guests for coming. This should be a riveting conversation, and I'm looking forward to it. Now, back to you.
We got so much to share. I just want to introduce our two guests officially. So Kay wrote this. I'm going to read from her perspective. People have told me I have the Midwest hug and hustle, which comes in handy for advertising and production. I've lived and worked in LA for almost 15 years, but hail from Michigan. My college career began with a scholarship to play soccer, but ultimately I graduated with a degree in photography. That degree brought me to a production internship, which kicked off a career in art production. That's always interesting because I'm like, where do these people come from? I worked agency side for almost a decade and have spent the last 5 years as a freelance art and content producer. I've been part of campaigns large and small with brands large and small. I'm constantly amazed at how this industry has been evolving over my career. Right when I think I've seen every way to tackle something, a project develops, pushing and stretching us in new directions. There's never a dull day. I love what I do, the people we meet, and the work we get to create, and the webinars she talks on. I added that. Thank you. And Michael is a Los Angeles, New York, probably everywhere based producer. In 2016, Michael founded the production company Circadian Pictures and has produced commercials for clients such as AT&T, American Express, Puma, Google, Target, Uber, Pepsi, and Beats by Dre. Michael is one busy producer in the commercial ad world, and his favorite food is pizza, and he's a whiskey guy. I relate to you, Michael.
Great.
So hi to both of you. Welcome.
Hi, thank you.
Hi. Thanks.
Thanks for having me. Yeah. So our plan for today is to cover the important points to have in our estimates. We have an actual estimate that Hugh, thank you, Hugh, has shared with us. It is from 2018, but it'll give us a good reflection of what estimates are and then what we need to add for today. So thank you for that. And then we will look at estimating for today's COVID reality, like we'll just really focus on that. Then we want to jump into usage and fees and get some information that is very hard to get. And at the end, if we have time, we will do a little chit chat about negotiating, and ask Kay for some secret client perspectives on how to negotiate. Right, Kay?
Sure.
Sure, she says. So let's get into our questions and keep the questions coming in. If we can get to them, we will. We want your questions. And attendees, stay with us after because Hugh and I have a wrap chat. That's what we call it, for 15 minutes after. So stay on there. And I gotta say, I love the questions we have received on this topic. We have a lot of them. So I'll just jump into one by Rico. What's the best software for creating client estimates? And I know the answer to this. It's Blink Bids. I don't know of any other.
Yeah.
I guess you guys don't either, right? You probably make your own, Michael.
Yeah. I know a bunch of people who use, they're also hot budgets, but I think that's also more of a motion thing. But I mean, it's probably silly. I kind of have created my own
I think every
number
producer,
document that
yeah,
does it. Yeah.
I think every producer mostly does that I've seen. And photographer or Blink Bid. I see that a lot. So before we, let's see, we're going to talk about shot list, usage, budget, schedule, location, triple bidding. What do we need? Those are the things. What do we need when we're first asked to bid a job? Michael, maybe you help with this. What do we need to find out from them? I always say we need the shot list. Like, that's my first question.
Them being me.
Them being me.
Yeah.
Okay.
The first thing that I ask is usually if they have a ballpark in mind. Because I mean, there are certain jobs where it's like, we could do this with, what available light and whatever. And it's like, whatever change you have in your pocket, or, oh, it's going to be a full buyout and it's going to be,
right.
6-7 figures, but it's good to manage and know what they are expecting. And then
it would sure save us a lot of time if we could know that. We often cannot know that. Maybe I'm just going to jump in. Kay, why can't we know that?
Yeah, Kay.
You don't know it, and sometimes I don't know it for a variety of reasons. The most common nowadays is that entire campaign budgets come from one line item. So you'll have your TV commercial, you'll have your social deliverables, you'll have your still deliverables, you may even have your media buy. And if you're working on a Super Bowl campaign, that could be a couple $1 million just for the buy. And so in those kind of situations, it's up to the producers for each area to kind of divvy up and kind of fight over, for lack of a more positive term, the portions of the budget that they need. So ahead of time, we usually pull aside some, and if we need a little more, then we have to go back internally. The other times you may not know the budget is that a client won't tell their agency, or they want to keep it to themselves. And then I think even furthermore, there's a lot of clients that they don't know. They just know they have this for 2020, and you start getting into things and maybe they can borrow some from another idea they had planned, or you come in under budget and they take that elsewhere, those kind of things. There's even situations where you'll think you have a budget and then a client will come to you and say, oh no, we actually need it for this because this went over. So it's always, it's very fluid.
Okay, but I'm just going to ask you directly on this, because it is this. I'm like, why didn't you tell me 10 hours earlier, Why?
I know it saves me time. So if I know it, I usually fork it over.
Okay.
But there's some instances where we may not want to share it, because if I have a dollar amount, it's almost certain that you guys' bid is going to be that dollar amount. So I sometimes want to see, if I say I have $30,000, I can almost guarantee the bids that come in are going to be 29, 28.
Mm-hmm. I guess it's just tricky. That
Mm.
as like a lot of these questions and answers, it's not always this.
Yeah.
It's so hard to get this is how it is.
Yep.
But thank you for explaining that.
No problem.
And why do we triple bid? Most jobs nowadays triple bid, right?
Yes. Yeah. We triple bid just to kind of get a ballpark of what a project may cost. A lot of producers, in-house producers, may not know what it is offhand, and kind of want to see the lay of the land. The one example I always show is that I had to shoot a giraffe. If someone asked me what it would cost to move and shoot a giraffe, I wouldn't know. So you triple bid and you kind of get a ballpark of where it is. You kind of see the industry standard for shooting a giraffe, and then
That's
you
funny.
go from there. Yeah.
All right. So when we shoot a giraffe, we call Kay. How important is the professional quality of an estimate, like to help the photographer get a job? How important of a part does the estimate play in the photographer getting the job? Okay.
To me, I think it's, that factors into a couple of things. If you would go to any other vendor, if you go to a restaurant or something, you'd want it clean and you want it organized, so if you have a nice clean bid, it helps with the process. Producers are looking at multiple bids all day long. So the more buttoned up and concise your bid can be, it helps our job. So I think it adds, makes my job easier, makes working with you guys easier if I know exactly what's in there.
Have you ever seen a bid and gone, oh boy, this does not look like professional, they're out?
Not out completely. I'll if we get to the part where we're bidding with you, we want to work with you. So we'll have conversations of getting you there, whether we feel like you're missing line items, or maybe the creative call, maybe you understood it differently than we wanted to explain it, or vice versa. Maybe you think of it a different way. So we'll 9 times out of 10 help you get to where you need to be, or where we think we need to be.
I
You
think,
might not trust that they know how much a giraffe costs, is what
Yeah.
you're saying.
right. I think some, young photographers, don't have the experience, so they may miss line items. And what has helped me is that I write my treatment first before I put together the estimate, so that I have a clear understanding of what's involved and all the different details that we can add to the estimate. So that's a trick that I use. I write my treatment first.
That's good. I want to get into the estimate. Hugh, will you screen share your estimate that you're so
Sure.
nicely sharing with us?
Hold on one second.
And then from there, maybe Michael, you can help us go down on this estimate and pick out things that maybe you think are important
Sure.
or nowadays have changed.
So this was 2 years ago. It was a big job that involved motion animations. There were 4 15-second web spots that we did, and then 4 print ads. And I've kept the vital, the personal information from everyone. But let me see if I can, hold on a second. Oh, let's see. So this is the first page of it.
So it's a 2-day. So that's what I like, the job description up top. I find that
Yep.
so important, so they know what the bid is based on.
Yep. And then the deliverables, of course. And then the print shots below. So those are the deliverables for the web spots, and the print shots are at the very bottom of the page. I'm going to flip to this. This is showing 2 pages at one time. And then it's got this shoot schedule, casting talent, location, prop sets, and wardrobe. The licensing usage is below that. Estimate terms, these are the terms are for payment. Those are usually dictated, at least in this case, was dictated by the agency themselves. And then you get into the different fees and different line items. So, and it usually starts with the fees first. These are my fees. And then we go into the crew, and then location, and then the different parts of the production.
We go back to the job description.
Sure.
Michael, what do you think are the important points in the job description?
I mean, this is more extensive than anything I've ever put on an estimate, but I love it. I think it's great. A lot of times we don't even have this much information when we have to put together an estimate, but also sometimes I have estimates that, by the time it gets approved, it's like version 36, like literally.
Yeah.
So sometimes you have to start a budget or an estimate kind of flying blind. And then in the same way that it's nice to get a ballpark, but a lot of times you don't get it, you send a version, they go, oh, it needs to be this. And then a ballpark. They go, oh, we're not sure how many shots, and you give an estimate for 4 shots. And they're like, actually, we need 10 shots. And I was like,
Right.
But if you have this information up front, this is great to have.
It was an extremely complicated, involved job. It took all summer for us to from start to finish to do this. There were so many moving parts in it, and so many details that we had to cover. So
yeah, it looks deliverables. Oh my gosh, that's a lot of detail.
Yeah.
I always think you have to put the amount of days, the amount of hours the shoot is overtime included? Where is it? Are there hand models? Are there talent? Like the basics up top.
Yeah.
Yeah. The terms for how long the usage is, things like that.
Let me go to that page. So it's under usage, license, and whatnot here.
So this is a blink bid. I definitely know that. Blink bid. Yeah, the usage. Okay, let's jump into usage. Kay, can you tell us what should usage be based on? Can you explain usage to us a little bit?
Usage is anywhere the content you create will live out in the world, viewable by the general public, or internally for a company. It's just anywhere that imagery you create is going to live for the amount of time, and what are the restrictions on how frequently or how often it's shared, and between which companies, if that's the most concise way to say it.
And location, right?
Location, yeah, kind of that where in the world, where in media,
right?
Content will live. So it can be broken down between where in the world, what media, where in the world be location, what media would be print, website, social, and then you come to terms. So that could be in perpetuity, which means forever. It could be 1 year, it could be 2 months, it could be a single insertion, one insertion in a magazine. And then the last part is exclusivity. Can this photographer, is this image only for the client it created, or can the photographer also license it to other clients and corporations?
Big one. Oh, I have so many questions. I'm not sure if I should keep going with usage, but maybe. Well, what?
Whatever feels right.
Whatever feels right. For usage, do clients ever? I've never had a photographer resell an image after it was used for a job. I just feel it's kind of wrong, even if it's not exclusive. Am I wrong? Should we be selling these images?
I think if it's not exclusive to the company, you have every right to, but it comes down to a personal preference, but then also the content. If you take a photo of an iPhone, you can't really sell it to another company.
Yeah.
If you take a gorgeous landscape for a car photo shoot, then, you know, there's the opportunity to license that to other places.
Right.
I think almost most of the clients I work with require exclusivity now, but you know, it's up to the photographer's personal preference if they feel like they shouldn't sell it if the exclusivity.
So always say in the usage, how many images? Just to be clear, because sometimes you're shooting 10, but they all get composed or stripped into 4 final images. So I always make that. Sometimes clients don't want us that. They change it. Like, no, just unlimited. So that becomes a negotiating tool.
Yeah. Again, depending on the content of the shoot, I think car photography very often will have 4 final shots, but you're shooting in plates. You know, you have your background plate, your car plate, your wheel plate, those kind of things. So you're taking multiple images and composing them into one.
Yeah.
So that's the most straightforward, like I think frequent use we see. But you get into a lifestyle shoot and you're swapping heads and hands and things like that, it starts to get a little gray.
Can you tell us anything about financial at this point? I know it's early to jump into this, but is there like a standard fee or a fee range that you see? If it's exclusive, I see that question there from Will. If it's kind of a general usage, let's say, maybe not unlimited, but it's a large usage.
I think pertaining to the usage, there's no set amount because it really is reflective of the photographer and the photographer's portfolio, the photographer's celebrity, for lack of a better term. You know, obviously, if Annie Leibovitz shoots something is different than, you know, someone just out of school shoots something, and it could be for the exact same usage. So the rate is more dependent on the photographer's body of work than it is on what the specifics of the usage is.
Can you still, I'm going to push now. Push. Can you give us a range? Like from, I've seen from to, or the normal range?
The normal range for a lifestyle shoot, for full usage, which is on all media in perpetuity, full exclusivity, which means the client can use it wherever, whenever, whole or in part, so they can cut it up and comp it to something else if they want.
Right.
If you're shooting for, you know, a global client, which is your Pepsis and your car companies, your Fords, you could probably see something between 8,000 and 15,000 a day, I think is what I'm seeing. But again, that comes down to the photography or the photographer's celebrity and their portfolio. That could change. I've seen 60,000 a day for a celebrity photographer for the same usage.
Wow.
So.
And are you saying usage or creative fee or kind of both?
Good question. Kind of both. I'm of the school of thought where I kind of like to see it baked together, unless there's a reason that we may add additional shots after. So to Andrea's point, if the initial ask is for 10 images, I'll probably ask for usage fee on any subsequent images. So your creative fee for the initial ask would be 10,000 a day. That includes usage. And then what's the usage fee for anything else we want to add after the fact? But I mean, that's not the norm. That's just what I prefer. I like to see it all baked in.
Hugh, we didn't, what was your fee on that? Did we talk about that? Did we do that?
Let me go back real quick. Hold on one
Let's
second.
analyze your fee for a second.
1 second. Where'd it go?
And here's a question, Kay, is per shot cost versus day rates? What do you think? Is it ever per shot anymore?
I think in like car examples it is. If your final deliverables are broken out by shot, usually if your deliverables are like under 5 deliverables, you're doing 4 master shots, a per shot rate is fine. But when a photographer's shooting libraries, just collecting a library of images, per shot doesn't even make sense.
It's a tricky thing. Again, I think there's no real answer because like right now I'm doing some bids that are per shot and some bids that are creative fee and day rate. And that's, Dennis asks, what are your thoughts on creative fees instead of day rates? Same thing?
No, in my experience, usually you try and, I guess Kay was saying that she likes to lump them together, but I think it's important to separate them. Because you also have to kind of find the balance of them, because sometimes you get days added, sometimes you get images added, and making sure that it has this balance so that whatever it ends up being, it's still, the compensation is appropriate, I guess.
But normally I say creative fee or I say day rate. Like that's a or one or the other.
Yeah, I guess it would be like creative fee is usually a day rate. Usage is the overall, so
Yeah.
if it's a full buyout and that's the usage would also be where it's like, this is 10 images or it's a library, those get specified. But the creative fee is usually a per shooting day thing. And then their prep or wrap or
So
post days.
do you think it matters, day rate or creative fee?
I think there should be both.
Oh.
I think as long as it's caveated either way, you could say if you do list a day rate, just note that usage is included in the day rate, or say usage is per shot usage is below. Just note it somewhere so it's very clear on your bid that your creative fee or your day rate does or does not include usage.
Let's see how, so Hugh, on here you have on the bottom, I see.
Yeah, so on the bottom left is where my fees start, and then the upper right is where they end.
So you have pre-production day.
Yep.
You have creative fee for 4 still images. So you have okay, so that's the creative fee, 4 each at $5,000 each. And then creative fee 4 each. Okay, those are motion.
Yep.
Oh, I see. So you creative fee separated the stills from the motion.
That's right.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have you have usage here in it.
Usage is involved, yes. And we actually, which is another point I wanted to make, is we sweetened the deal for them by giving them an extra year usage. This is something that they asked for and we gave to them. That was in mid-production. So we felt it was okay because it was, it was such a generous fee to begin with, and they were great clients. So we gave them that. And so that might be a negotiating tool that photographers can use to sweeten the deal, is a little bit more usage.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I see here, so post-production and pre-production, do you all have a thought of what percentage of the fee are these prep days and post days? Is it, let's see what he has. 3,000 from, well, we don't have a day rate, so it's a little hard to, how many days is this shoot? Day 1, day 2, so 2 days.
2 days shoot, but the time that was involved was immense. So, but it was too much fun not to, do it. So that's the way we operate. I work on a per image, fee. That's the way I work. For someone like who's a lifestyle shooter, it might be days would be more appropriate. So.
Do you guys have like a general percentage of the day rate? My guess it's kind of between a third and a little, between a half and a third.
For prep days, you're saying?
Prep and post.
I don't have like a set percentage, no.
No. I think it depends on the scope of the project. If you're location scouting and casting and sitting for wardrobe sittings, or if it's I think it depends.
And so much of it, it's like the total fee is added up to get you, like they all kind of fluctuate, but when you see the total and you see the total budget and you see the scope, you usually know then whether or not overall it's appropriate. Each job is so different, and there's that balance.
Right.
It's usually, and there are no hard and fast rules. So
That's it too.
Yeah.
So much of a guessing game. I always try to add more days than maybe we kind of have to have, or because I assume that's the first place that might get cut. And then it's like, okay, we can give something here. So if I know it's really a 2-day prep, I'm going to say 3 because there's casting and props, and then Kay is going to come back to me and say, we got to chop something out. Can you lose a prep day? Am I right, Kay? That's what you'd say?
Maybe,
Maybe.
depending.
Isn't that
by,
like
by
one
the
of
time
first-
Kay has already said that, I'm sure that the photographer has already had 7 prep days that they've worked to even get to
That
point.
is a really good point. It's not so accurate.
Yeah. Yes.
I find it's that extra place we can try to get more.
Mhm.
There's a question about I wanted to ask about clarifying a treatment versus a bid, and my answer to that is a treatment is, a written description with some, image reference on how you plan to do the shoot, and it's written so in a way that describes every aspect of the shoot that you can foresee. It's just so that they understand how you plan on attacking this particular job. And then the estimate is basically what you see you're going to need and what you're going to charge for that implementation of that treatment. How you're going to unfold that particular shoot. So I hope that's clear to everyone. Do you guys have any other description of what that is? The difference between a treatment and an estimate? Sound right?
Yeah.
Yes, and I think a treatment, that is a whole other discussion. I don't want to get too
No,
far.
I don't want to get into that too, but we will talk about treatments because I think it's a whole great subject.
So
Mhm.
to go back to this estimate, because we're running out of time already. You see this? It goes so fast. So then you have the crew
Yes.
and
Location
the
studio.
payroll. That's an interesting thing. Michael, will you explain payroll to us?
I can do my best. I'm not an accountant.
Okay.
But I mean, that's something that is usually a percentage is kind of just math. Is also something that a lot of times, depending upon the budget, gets squeezed out and then becomes something that the producer or photographer ends up having to eat, which is not ideal. So I would say fight for this because it's having to pay payroll fees or just the cost of payroll services and all that
Mhm.
stuff.
Is that the law now that we have to use a payroll service?
The law is changing, and specifically in California, I know that there are photographers from all over. It depends, and I would say consult a lawyer or an accountant about that portion of the question.
What I find is 23% or 28% of the crew's fee day rates based on if they want workers' comp. Workers' comp, you add it to make it 28%. Does that sound right?
Yeah, insurance I usually have in a different line.
No, payroll.
Yeah,
Payroll
yeah.
will cover workers' comp.
Yeah, I mean, certain payroll companies, you have it together. Other times you have it that it's separate and you get audited at the end of the year based on your payroll. So, which is a whole headache. But because of that, I would say always include fees for payroll and insurance.
Yeah.
Because they are.
I find that photographers are going to have to pay for it anyway. So if we can get it in the bid, and I'd say nowadays, it's kind of normal.
Well, here's a question about that. Isn't the payroll fees baked into the crew fees when paying them through a temp agency?
Say that again?
So the question is, isn't the payroll fees baked into the crew fees? In other words, it's included when paying them through a temp agency.
I don't know what a temp agency is.
Yeah.
Sorry, we don't know.
Like a payroll company, temp agency, like their fees? Is that what you're saying?
We
Sounds like
don't know. We're not sure, Kay. What do you think?
Nick, if you can clarify that, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, clarify.
I would say that it should be separated out. I don't know what the temp agency is, but if you know you have an assistant and you tell them that their rate is 600 for the day, their rate is 600 for the day, and then they're getting taxes removed and you're having payroll fees that you're paying, but the net amount is 600, or the gross amount, not the net amount. Sorry. Again, talk to an accountant, not me.
He says a
Yeah.
payroll service is a temp agency. Yeah. So like Smith and Stillwell.
Ah,
Yeah.
Is a temp agent. Got it.
okay. Did we answer that?
I think so.
Okay. I'm not sure.
Nick, let us know.
So,
Is there anything
Michael-
else in this estimate you wanted to talk about, or?
oh, that's a good point. Should we keep on this estimate? Crew, location studio, digital processing and retouching. I saw insurance.
I'm going to scroll up.
Yeah, scroll up. Production expenses, casting, talent, insurance, miscellaneous. I mean, Michael, when you're doing this kind of bid, how do you just kind of have your set prices of what you know each scenario, what you'll need, how much they'll cost?
You get a sense of it for sure. It also, I mean, I've started putting notes on my bids that, or on estimates, that the lines may move around. It kind of similar to fees, where you kind of know big picture if it seems appropriate for the scope of the job. These kind of things move around. You know, you learn that the giraffe, also you have to get expensive food for the giraffe, but something else comes in under, like you estimated a certain amount. These things move around, but you generally have a sense of that the overall scope is appropriate.
Here's a tough question, Michael.
Yeah.
What if someone can't, it's a job, they don't have a rep, they don't have a producer. How do they go about finding what they need? And maybe Kay, maybe you know too, and Hugh, what if we're talking to photographers who don't have producers and haven't done this before?
I
That's a
think
hard one.
I haven't looked into if there's a source, like if you know, even as simply as like Google, like what are line items needed in a bid. But I think just a rule of thumb, just think of every single thing that you would need to execute a shoot or a shot and assign a dollar amount to it. If you need tape and background seamless, and you need someone to wipe down the prop you're shooting, every single thing needs to be assigned a dollar amount. I think some of the, even me just coming out of photo school, some of the things I didn't include that needed to be like, oh, I already have a gray seamless, or I already have gaff equipment, I already have light stands. You can still
But
charge
even if
for
you
them.
have them, you can charge for them.
Yeah, you can charge them. You can charge for your camera, not the whole amount for a 5D, but you can charge a rental fee.
Yes.
You know, you just have to picture yourself standing in a white room and say, what does it cost to execute this shoot?
Yeah.
Everything has a dollar amount.
And how
I
much
see
does that white room cost also?
That's right.
Pay for the white room
Yeah.
and the car the gas that took you there. So
That's right, mileage.
Yeah.
Hugh, I see your camera is $850 a day. I've seen it like in the 500, 800 range.
Yeah.
Digital.
I mean, I think also part of this, if you are getting to the point of doing a shoot professionally where you're getting paid for it, you know someone that can answer these questions for you.
That's a really good point.
You know, if you're an assistant who now has the opportunity to shoot something, you've been assisting for someone who has these answers, or you've assisted with someone who has these answers, or
Yeah. I find that so many people are so willing to help and give advice and thoughts on this stuff.
I mean, have you guys helped your photographers through if they have questions about, those sorts of things? They may reveal that they don't have a whole lot of experience. Are you willing to help them through their, to get expectations right?
yeah, I've actually, on a couple instances, I've paired photographers that don't have a producer with a producer. If there's someone that we came across that we love their book or we love what they're doing on social, we reach out to them and say, are you comfortable working with a producer? And I've paired them together. So it's not so much pressure on them, but also I have that line of trust with the producer that they're going to keep an eye on everything and takes the uncertainty off shooting with someone that doesn't have that or doesn't have the experience with that. So
Yeah, that might really help them get the job, I think.
True.
Yeah. That's more rare for me, but that has happened, and it is helpful because they don't know, you ask them questions, they go, oh yeah, I do have a camera. I guess we should include that, or we are going to need to rent a camera. And someone who is used to bidding these things will ask them those questions and know whether or not they have a digital tech that they use, or if they need one, or
right.
those kind of
Hugh,
things.
I know you have a question, but I want to ask something first.
Yeah, go ahead and ask it, but we should probably move on to COVID.
I know. But Kay, should people be honest with you if they don't know how to bid something? What do you think? Yeah?
Yeah, I think that's smart.
Okay. Hugh, go
I
ahead.
think any other field, like if the contractor should be honest if they don't know how to
Absolutely.
build a deck. Like it's not good business practice.
Also Kay is not every art producer. So definitely with Kay you should, but also if it's someone that won't, if you tell them I don't know how to bid and that's a problem, you're going to have problems later on anyway. So it's better to get it out of the way at that stage of the process.
Mm-hmm.
So one question came in about this, and we'll move on to COVID. Once the job is done, how do you get a final invoice and explain any cost difference?
I have an answer, but Kay, you go.
I shouldn't see, as a producer, as an agency producer, I should never see a line item over than what was listed in your estimate without me knowing in advance. Anything under is fantastic. I'll applaud you for it, but I shouldn't see any surprises by the time I get my final bid. All conversations should have been had before costs are incurred or any line changes happen. And to Michael's point, he says he flags in his bids that line items may shift, but in our experience together, he's always explained to me, hey, we came in under wardrobe, I'm going to pull from there. So I know wardrobe's under, but props are over, things like that.
Yeah.
I would never have a surprise that there is overages overall.
Yeah.
For sure. Without, when we get to that point, saying, if we want to do this, there's going to be overages or whatever.
And that has to be approved
Yeah.
beforehand, before you even do it.
That's why it's so important to really be buttoned up when you're doing that estimating, as much as you can. And sometimes we cushion it just a little bit to just give us a pop up.
Really good point, Hugh.
Yeah.
I think so Michael, for COVID times, what do we add to a bid like that? Can you give us like line items or costs or is there one cost?
COVID compliance officers, set medics, PPE, testing, but not, the thing about this time that's difficult is clients are also being squeezed right now and asking for the same amount, if not more, and in less time or the same amount of time, but things take longer now for it to be safe, and they require more for things to be safe. And I think difficult time, and there are a lot more elements to things. But definitely testing, PPE, COVID compliance officers.
Can you give us prices for those?
Yeah, I was just going to ask that. Like a range, maybe?
Yeah. A COVID compliance officer is anywhere from like 500 to 1,000 a day.
Okay.
PPE, PPE depends upon the scope of the shoot, how many days, how many people, things like that. Also, even actually another locations, you have to also have sanitation, like sanitizing, have them come in and spray things down before, spray things down after, wipe
How
things
much?
down.
How much for that?
I'd have to, I mean, it usually depends. So if you're in a studio, a lot of times the studios will have a cleaning fee built in, and that's,
Yeah,
usually
that's
like
true.
250 to 500 a day or whatever, depending upon thing. And then if it's on location, it's usually based on square footage, and I don't know the per square footage
Yeah.
amount. Or they'll give you a time estimate based on how much they have to be cleaning.
For a house, I've seen 300 for the
300
cleanup.
flat. I mean, yeah. I mean, I've actually even recently, like 300 is like a cleaning fee.
Yeah.
But a lot of times we'll hire a crew that, it's not just like, all right, we leave the house and you guys get someone to come clean it.
Right.
$300.
Marinades come in, yeah.
Yeah, we're the ones booking
You
the
handle that.
service. Yeah.
So
And yeah,
I have one question about the COVID compliance officer. What is his role? Does he actually, take the temperatures? Does he scan the studio or location to make sure everything during the shoot that everything's clean or whatnot? I mean, what role is that? Is he an overseer or is he a doer in that particular?
It varies and depends upon the job. A lot of times it is for us working with us to fine tune our protocols to the specifics of the shoot. A lot of times they're the ones that are knowledgeable and can coordinate where to get tested. If someone has to if you're not doing onset testing, they can assist with coordinating when and how to get tested.
Right.
During safety meetings, they're going over protocols. They're telling people to pull up their mask, even down to that. Temperature checks sometimes, but sometimes that's a set medic, or sometimes if you're in a studio, the studio has that built in because they have protocols as well. There are questionnaires that everyone has to answer generally before coming to set. So we'll have our COVID compliance officer go through that, make sure that everyone has filled it out. Sometimes in the questionnaire, someone will have an answer that is you said that you've had headaches in the past 14 days, and then they go have a conversation with them, and they have chronic migraines, so it's not a COVID concern, but they answered honestly about you have headaches. PPE distribution, if people don't have their own masks, if people don't have their own sanitizer, things like that.
do we? I know the answer. Get tested for a shoot.
It varies.
Yeah.
A lot of times we don't. I fight for getting that. Also, I'm more and more I'm fighting for onset testing. But
is onset testing 150? That's what I've heard. Each one.
It depends. So there's rapid testing, or sometimes you have PCRs, which are the ones that have to go to a lab that are usually nasal or oral. Those ones are a little more expensive, but they're also more accurate, but they also take more time.
200, 250?
I mean, sometimes for concierge stuff where you're having the crew all come to a location 2 days in advance to get tested, that could be, over $300 a test, plus a fee for showing up, or for the nurse or the tech to show up and do the tests.
I've heard of photographers paying their crew $250 to go get tested 3 days before the shoot, something like that.
To go get tested, go to Dodger Stadium or in LA.
Just for their time. I don't think it's all the time, but I've heard that.
Yeah. On some budgets, I'm able to get that. On some, I'm not. And there are some times where people are like, do we not? And the answer is, it's not in this budget, but these are time,
you still want the job.
Yeah. And it's unfortunate that not all jobs have the budget because people
every client is so different. And I also feel like Chicago, I'll get one answer. New York, I'll get another answer. Wherever the client is, there seems to be a different.
Also, availability of testing affects it, because in certain places there aren't just just go, there's a thing block away and it's free and you do it, or it's the whole thing to get tested.
Here's another question. Do agencies typically have their own COVID set protocols? In other words, do they have a set?
We,
Yeah.
sorry, yes, the agency I'm currently at does. But it's changing so quickly. We consider it an open line of communication between the producer and the photographer with what they're comfortable with. And also there's so many nuances to a photo shoot. There isn't a hard and fast guideline. It just comes down to, I mean, the big ones are distance and safety and, PPE. But then in terms of how many people are on set, it comes down to the space you're able to rent and those kind of things. How long is your day? How long are you exposed with somebody? It's all a gray area. But yeah, every shoot so far I've done, the production's PPE approach has been shared with the agency. It's been shared with our HR department, our business affairs department, just as a gut check. But it's never like a yes or no, we tell you what to do, because it's so subjective on what's being shot and what we're asking to be
The
created.
situation.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm fine that every agency is different, but they all kind of do have their policies. And then if it's client direct, they often don't have any policy and leave it up to the photographer. And we're the ones. And here's my next question is, the industry was shrinking in budgets, and now we have these extra costs. Do clients pay for these COVID costs, even though the budgets were shrinking?
From where I am, the project quantities are shrinking. We're cutting numbers of projects and moving money into different budgets. So where a client wanted to do 3 things in the new year, they're doing 1. Those kind of things.
Michael, have you seen that?
But the
Yeah,
budgets
so
are-
I've seen it feels like many things in the country. It feels like it's getting polarized of either really tiny shoots or really big shoots that are making up for the past 6 months of no shoots. And there's kind of issues with both of them. It's a tough time to be shooting and doing it safely. And I mean, the world that we're in right now, there is no 100% safe anything, is the unfortunate reality.
Yeah, because we don't even know what's going to happen tomorrow and next week and next month. It's going to change.
Yeah.
One question came in: where can one find a COVID compliance officer? That's a good question.
That is a good question. In my experience, kind of the same way that you find anything else, just kind of your
Google it.
resources of and crews, and you've worked with someone who's now trained to be a COVID compliance officer, or someone that's been on a set and had a great experience with their COVID compliance officer. There's also, you can train yourself, or have people are taking seminars and getting qualifications and things like that.
Is the medic the same as the officer, or is that always 2 people?
The COVID compliance officer is supposed to, their singular role is supposed to be a COVID compliance officer.
Interesting.
But there are medic, but also a medic isn't necessarily required. So it could be that you hire a medic to be a COVID compliance officer, and they're skilled in doing the other things, or they bring Advil or whatever as well. But their focus is on COVID compliance.
This is good stuff. Any other COVID questions before we move on?
Not from our audience, but
Okay, what are you going to say?
I have a question.
Oh,
And I don't even know how to pronounce it correctly because I've only just started encountering it. How do we plan for or insure against a major person on the crew getting COVID? The photographer, something like that. They were calling it a force majeure, if that's the right term for it. How do we estimate, or how do we plan for that? Because on a $700,000 shoot, what happens if 3 days before the shoot the photographer tests positive?
And Michael,
I don't know
before
the
you-
answer. I don't.
Before you-
up until now, it's been this. So
I want to also throw in on that. So what are the terms that are going to protect a photographer? What do they say to cover their own butt and get costs covered? Because you're booking crew.
mhm.
And then if someone gets it, okay, Michael, you answer this.
Uh,
All on you.
it is, I mean, it's something that I am currently navigating and can't talk too much specifics about. But also partially because we don't know the answers yet. Insurance, I've had productions recently that we are doing production or insurance claims, and we don't know what the coverage is yet because a lot of insurance companies will, do their best to not cover as much as possible. On certain scales, there are, key person clauses and things like that. This is like feature films and stuff like that. The talent, if they get sick, even during not COVID times, that's something that is insurable. But normally you wouldn't have that on a photo shoot for a photographer, but they are a key person and you can't work without them. But it is kind of uncharted territories, and so far, in my experience, been a case-by-case basis of figuring out what you
do. Do you have it on your bid, Michael? A certain line or two or three to protect yourself?
I mean, we have insurance. Going forward, I do think that is something that, from my experiences recently, should be included more. It's also a difficult thing because it's depending upon the scope of your shoot, how many days, how many people. It doesn't matter the importance of the person's role. If someone has been on set with people and they test positive, on a multi-day shoot, and you find out everyone is exposed, but that's why there are also protocols for in certain situations to do, teams and making sure that people don't cross paths. But that's also for commercial stuff and shorter term, that's difficult because most of the time everyone is working on everything. On TV shows and things like that, you can kind of do those,
Right.
ABC groups or colors or whatever.
Yeah.
But even that doesn't, that really protects you from having to shut down completely. It's so that it's for contact tracing and being able to know exposure and limiting exposure, but that doesn't stop people from getting it.
Do the crew, if you have to stop a shoot, do they still get paid?
In my experience, yes.
Mm-hmm.
And again, a lot of this is uncharted, and I don't know what the rules are. In the way that I operate is doing what's right and safe. If someone is booked for that day and halfway through that day we shut it down, we book them for that day. Their time, that's their time.
Yeah, that's the confusing part. And who pays? Like, are clients going to say, yeah, we will cover that?
I think at this point, bids should have that specifically worded out. And it's pre-COVID, that's something, things that clients won't pony up for. I put in language of if there's, if they won't give enough in miscellaneous or won't give enough in insurance, I specify this doesn't include insurance deduct. If a PA crashes a van, we have insurance, but there is a deductible. You didn't give us enough in miscellaneous or insurance, but I said specifically, this doesn't include deductibles. So if there's an accident, the client is paying for that deductible because.
So you mean you say that about COVID?
No, I am saying that going forward, from my experience, I think that needs to be outlined, that either the bid has to have a line in it for contingency specifically for COVID, or it says that if they don't approve that line, then they are going to cover any costs associated.
I see. I like that. I haven't heard that before, but that's important. And I also throw in, and any expenses already incurred, because if someone gets it before the shoot even starts, you spent money, you need it covered.
Yeah.
And
it'll be a hard fight, and that's the situation that everyone's being put in is, you know, on both sides, like clients are having budgets slashed and things like that, but and people are missing work for months on end, so it's harder for them to say no to something, but sometimes you just have to say no to things.
Yeah. That's good stuff. We are almost out of time, so I'm going to jump into negotiating. Kay, do you have any secrets for us? Like, have you noticed someone negotiate? How did they negotiate that? Like when you work with me, just kidding. When you work with people and you're like, oh, they negotiated that very well. Interesting. Or, oh, that was bad negotiation. Or any hints that make us know we might get this job. We have more power to negotiate here. Any inside tips?
Yeah, well, I think to answer your first question, any negotiation I'm not part of, I don't know if I would know how they negotiated it besides just seeing the bottom line. And at that stage of the game, if it's super low, I get a little suspect. But I think in negotiations, I know Andrea and I were chatting the other day, if a agency producer is working with you a lot and being very nitpicky and very granular, it's not a negative thing, it's a positive thing. Mm-hmm. That means our time to make sure your bid is exactly where it needs to be or where we need it to be budget-wise to get over the goal line. If a bid comes in that's so high and we say thank you and that's the last you hear of us, that means you're not the one that we're moving forward with. Mm-hmm. So I think you know, don't think it, like I said, as a negative. And I think like any negotiations, photography shoots or car purchases, it's all a conversation. Nothing's set in stone. That's the tricky part with photography. We don't have a governing body. We don't have unions. We don't have any of that sets rates or sets guidelines, sets shoot days. So it's all up for conversation. So it just comes down to, as a photographer, your personal preference, what you're comfortable with. You know, I'll repeatedly say I'd never want to put a production or a photographer in a position where they don't think they can deliver what we've asked them to do. But by me saying that, you know, if we don't, then it's on you. I don't want to have you whittle down the amount of assistance you need, the amount of days you need, the amount of talent you need, any of it, to a point where it compromises the creative.
Yeah.
But does a lower bid help to get the job?
Yeah, I think, yeah, in a general sense, you know, like anything else, but 9 times out of 10, we will go with the lowest bid, but we'll also work with who we want to work with. The creatives will have, if we triple bid, the creatives will have their favorites. And so we'll work with that photographer to make sure they are the lowest bid. Mm-hmm. If they're not, we have to have a lot of justification, whether it's celebrity or whether it's approach or something that validates why they cost more. But mm-hmm. It's my job to make sure they are the lowest in some sense.
Well, that goes to one of the questions early on is does it hurt a photographer to be under your budget? Does it hurt them to be under that budget?
No, not if in talking with them, I feel like everything's been considered, all the line items, all the needs have been considered. I have been in situations where I've asked photographers to raise their costs because I feel like something's missing. You know, there's not enough giraffe food or there's not enough giraffe transportation. Something's not right. So I think if it off the bat comes in under budget, the first place I look, to be honest, is that did we describe something wrong in our creative call where they missed what the deliverables were? If they're so far under, if it's a couple, you know, if it's close, it doesn't matter. But if you're a couple $100,000 under, then I more look like that's on me. Something didn't come across correctly, that you're not getting up there. And then we start the conversation, making sure all the pieces are in play.
Yeah. I think we have to end this, but we could go on any of these topics. We could kind of go on a whole webinar on all of them. Oh, do you guys have any final thoughts or topics or something that came to you and you're like, oh, I wish I said that, or any wisdoms you care to share? Anybody?
I think mine is just, like I said, bidding's a conversation. There's no black and white rules to photography. So as long as you feel comfortable, you can execute what they ask. I think everything is adjustable and changeable by the time you award the job or before you award the job.
Mhm.
Then all bets are off. You're stuck with it.
True. Anyone else?
I think Kay said that well. I mean, each job is just so different, and therefore each estimate is different, and an estimate for each particular job can change as you understand more, learn the restrictions or needs of it to change.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's why we only could show one estimate, because each one is completely different from the other. So it's just really hard to get a protocol for everything, for every estimate, right? The way things go. So it's different. I agree with
Each
that.
one is different. For me, I do a lot of estimating, and I always start with a phone call because I want that person to feel me, and I feel where they are. It's a feeling. I can get a sense, and then I will throw a number out just to see how they react. And I want to let them know, I kind of blame myself. I don't want, as a rep, to come in too high and lose the photographer this job. I want to kind of bond with them. I'm a person. So I open up that conversation so they can know, we can talk back and forth. We're open. We want this job. Let me know. So that's how I do it. And I find some human contact, talking on the phone is really important.
The human element also affects your ability to really understand what the scope is, because you can
It's true.
tell whether or not they understand, if you need to have more room for something because they don't understand how many, that there's going to be so much transportation between all these locations or something like that. But when you talk to someone, you could tell if they understand the things or are flexible with things, and whether
Yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with going back and asking questions to the producer at all. It also engages your chance to engage with them, and they get to know you a little bit better. And they also can see that you're really trying to make this happen.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't have any fear about asking questions to a producer.
But on that, I want to say, at the beginning, I try to have a phone call. I know that we're not going to be able to have a lot of phone calls. Like probably one phone call, then it turns into emails and maybe a text.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So to have those questions ready, if you're going to have that first initial phone call,
That's very
know that you're having one shot at that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
all right.
Good. We're done. We did it, people. Although I have one final personal question that I like to always ask at these things, because that's who I am. So I find the world so large and overwhelming right now. We are 9 months into COVID at this point. How do you keep your focus on your work? Ooh. Who's somebody?
someone
Maybe that's how you keep your focus on your work.
called me on my laptop. Sorry about that.
How do you all keep your focus on your work when right now the world is big? Like everything's so big. The politics, we're in the health, the scare, the financial situations, everything.
I struggle. I'm looking for tips. I struggle.
And the racism and all these topics that we're dealing with are so big. How do we keep some focus on our work?
Turn off the news.
Mm.
Take a walk.
Take it day by day.
Mm.
Because also some days there is work to do, and some days there isn't work to do, or most days these days there are more important things other than work to do. So
Absolutely, especially these days. So.
Yeah.
I am finding if I do a little more of outreach and I try to help some people, I'm doing good things, trying to keep with my life's purpose more and bring that into my work.
Mm.
It helps give me the fire, Okay, what about you? Nothing.
I try to, on the simplest level, find an hour where I'm not in front of a screen.
Mm.
I wake up and check emails on my phone. you know, not being in the office, you don't have that commute to unplug. You don't have the commute home to unplug. You know, I go from work emails to cooking dinner to watching something on Netflix. I need to carve out non-screen time. I think that's the only thing. And then when I'm in front of it, I focus.
I'm going to give that thumbs up to that one. Michael and Hugh, I really can't thank you enough. The world needs to hear what you're saying. And you gave your time today. You gave your hour, Kay, to us today. I look forward to seeing, all you attendees next month. We're going to have a hot topic on websites and marketing. So get your questions ready and join us. And thank you, APA LA.
Thank you. Thank you guys for showing up. I really, really appreciate it.
Wait, everyone wait around for the wrap up. Yeah. Go, Hugh.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you guys. It was so informative. Really appreciate your time. And APA said I'm extending it out from APA LA and the National. So thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Join APA.
Yeah.
It's a good hub, right? Right, Hugh?
Yes.
It's the hub.
It is.
And Sammy's Camera, thank you. Sponsoring us?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Sammy, for sponsoring us. And we appreciate you, Andrea, for doing this with us. And Patty Silverstein for behind the scenes. Love you, Patty. Yeah. So thank you guys.
Thank you, two guests. Talk to you soon.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Bye,
Hugh,
guys.
stay on.
Bye. Thanks again.
Hugh, let's talk about them.
You need to stay on?
Do we
No,
get-
you get out. You get out.
All right.
Now we get to talk.
I'm leaving. Thank
Okay.
you. This
Thank
was
you.
fun.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
As bad as I
Thank
thought.
you.
Okay.
Bye-bye. Bye, Michael.
So what do you think, Hugh? Did we get everything? It was like, there was so much.
I know, and it's too much. It's really,
Yeah.
And I think it's, when you're talking about estimates being so different, I mean, I'm sure that a lifestyle shooter, has specific questions for that, or a still life photographer would have specific questions, but we were just trying to, broad strokes talk about estimates here. So
Yeah.
I hope that we were able to give enough information for them to get started, and keep those questions coming, because we can answer them also.
Yeah. Yeah. Got any questions for us? Let us know.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm relaxing more into these webinars, and I'm liking it more and more and more. Like I had a script ready of questions, and I just kept I just had the questions. They were coming. And it's hard to stay on topic all the time, but I guess when it's estimates. So
yeah, it's
also hard because Kay will have her information and Michael has his information. And I want to say to everybody, it's not always, that's one person. Someone else is going to say another thing.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, it's hard to cover it for everyone.
Yeah. So what'd you think? I mean, did you get some information that you were unaware of?
I did. Oh, I wish I wrote it down. I can't remember what it was. How about you?
Well, I think just it was really interesting to hear about the details about how to manage safety on a set, and knowing all the intricate parts of that to make it happen. And what, my question is, what is compliant too, and that's why it's so important to have someone there who is managing that part of it.
Yeah.
And I think nowadays it just has to be a line item that is in the estimate, because if you're trying to juggle all this stuff, if you're, basically producing the shoot, now you add this on top of it,
And the risk is too big.
No.
That stuff has to be done right. The fear of COVID, and people are on set working, people want to work.
And I do think, from my personal perspective, I think it's really important that the client needs to know what's involved, and that this should be part of the estimate. This has to happen.
Yeah.
So, or I'm sorry, I can't do it. It's just too risky,
Yeah. I do know of a situation where a photographer was told to pull up his mask over his nose on a shoot, and he had a hard time because he had glasses.
So it's fogging up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like even the photographer and that medic or compliance officer said, I'm going to shut the shoot down if you don't. Wow.
I know but that's a good thing. You know,
Yeah.
that is
Yeah.
someone doing their job.
Right.
You know, that they
Like
have,
puts a new director over the director.
yeah, right.
Something bigger than all the things that made up our production. Everything was so important. You know, who's the most important? Nope.
No, yeah. So
Yeah.
that was good. It was
That was
good.
good.
I hope that we were beneficial to everyone. I do
Yeah.
hope. Let's see if there's any. Let me look in the Q&A and see if there's any questions that are coming
Okay.
late. Oh, here's someone. Robert Gallagher said, I would say having projects on my desk helps keep my focus off the crazy.
Mm.
So that's good.
Wait, Robert, do you mean,
Robert,
uh,
there was a person by the name of Robert Gallagher.
I know Robert.
Okay.
So Robert, like having projects upcoming and you're working on them helps you keep your focus?
It sounds to me like that
Yeah.
is, you know, for
Yeah.
me, that's pinnacle for me. You know,
Hmm.
turn off the news, but focus on my personal projects. You know, that's where I find solace. And
Yeah. You know what, too, for me, I find that the more I work with photographers and do the thing that I love so much, helping, you know, should this be on my website? Where is my direction going? Those questions and evolving and growing with photographers, you could just tell by the way I'm talking, it like gets me so fired up. So I try to do more of stuff that is deeply meaning to me, reminding myself why I got into this. What's my fire, you know, and do that. And part of that is why I do this webinar. As you could tell, I'm not like, I can't pretend to be excited.
yeah,
I am. These topics and these questions and asking these people, this is a dream.
yeah,
This is
no,
what
it
we
really,
want.
yeah.
I'm really being selfish. I'm doing this for me.
Me too. Me too.
Mhm.
Me too. Any parting words of wisdom for everyone before we get off?
Ooh. About estimating?
Sure.
Estimating? Hmm. I like how she said be honest, because I do feel even if I'm not totally giving away all my honesty about something, I'm being honest, and the person I'm talking to, they can hear that. They'll work with me. I will get more information from them if I can be put kind of vulnerable, put myself out there. Like, I haven't done this kind of shoot before, or I'm not sure what your budget is going to be. We don't want to lose this job. Like, say something that opens up the channels more.
No, absolutely. I mean, I've been had issues or you know, issues come up where I can't fit that creative square peg into the financial round hole, and I'll go back to them and say, look, if you want this, it's, you know, we can't come under that budget. You know, what can you do for us? Because you're coming to me for that expertise, for that look. I can't fit it in that budget.
Yeah, it's like a really frank way of talking.
Yeah.
It's like,
No, that's the thing. That's what I think she's getting at, is that you just have to be honest and upfront from the very beginning. So,
yeah,
yeah.
that's my tidbit to throw in there.
Yeah.
All right, we'll see you all next month. So
Yeah. Thank you, sweetheart. So great. So great.
yeah.
Great.
Oh, and I got to say, I'm not in my home this time. My friend put that up because my cable went out this morning. So I ran to my friend's house, and that's that cute thing.
I was missing your baseballs, but it looks
I
like she's got
know.
some tiki. What is she
Yeah,
going on?
it's a fun place. But next month, you'll see my baseballs.
Yeah,
If you don't know what that is, you'll find out.
I know. All right then. Well, we'll see you next month. Okay.
Bye, everybody.
Okay. Bye.